apostles and others over the course of 40 days. Although in his resurrection he had begun a new way of life, an immortal and incorruptible one, he remained in this changeable world for the sake of the church. For he had to spend sufficient time with the apostles to confirm the truth of his resurrection by way of testimonies and proofs. First, he opened their minds to the meaning of the Old Testament and instructed them on the testimonies about him found therein, so that when they went forth to preach, they would be well equipped, able to draw forth passages to convince their brethren. Jesus also showed them the reality of his risen body. He allowed himself to be seen and touched, especially his wounds. He ate and drank with them. And he gave them some sense of the newness of his life by coming and going at will, by entering through locked doors, by remaining on the shore while they labored in the sea. For this reason, although he appeared to them over the length of 40 days, he did not remain with them during that time. In fact, he was absent bodily most of the time, lest they think that he had risen to the same life as was his before. And so the weeks after the resurrection were a period of instruction, an important time in which the Lord solidified the faith of the apostles and prepared them to go out into the world to preach. It was the final case of the Master teaching his disciples, the last instance of fatherly love that he had shown them consistently over 3 years. Though the 40 days had a pragmatic purpose then, they were also yet another act of divine charity for them and for us. Today's mystery also is one of divine charity. There is a fittingness to the ascension of the Lord, and it is certainly an act of justice. The one who is immortal goes today to his immortal dwellings, and the one who humbled himself for love of the Father and us is exalted above all today. But is it such great glory that the immortal one and the exalted one should take his rightful place, that place which he never left in his Godhead? As Christ says plainly in the Last Supper discourse, I came forth from the Father and I am come into the world. Again I leave the world and I go to the Father. And elsewhere he says, I have glorified thee on earth, O Father. I have finished the work which thou gavest me to do. And now glorify thou me, O Father, with thyself, with the glory which I had before the world was with thee. The glory of today, then, was one which Jesus already had as God. And in his human mind, he was already enjoying the beatific vision from the moment of his conception. Only his body had yet to be glorified. And that seems a small thing to the Creator of the world. What happens today is that Christ, our head, goes to heaven for our sake. He goes to give us hope that we will follow him, for the head is incomplete without its body, that is, the members of his mystical body, the church. He goes there to intercede for us, for on this day his human nature enters into the Holy of Holies, to continuously show his wounds to the Father and beg mercy on our wayward race. And he goes to separate our hearts from this world, to pull them away from what is passing, so they would cling to what is eternal, and to yearn to live with him who died for us. This is the sense of the passage in John when the Lord says, I go to prepare a place for you. St. Thomas points out that one prepares a place in two ways. One regards the place itself, and the other access to that place. Since the place that we are going is God himself, there is nothing to prepare. There is no bed to make, no floor to sweep. In this life, God comes to us and dwells in us, but in the next life, we will dwell in him. He will be our abode. And so what must be prepared is access to this place. And one does not travel to God by the feet, but by the heart. Christ leaves us then today to prepare our hearts that they may follow him. He did this even for the apostles. For on the day of the Ascension, as we heard, they asked him again about reinstating the kingdom of Israel, even on this earth. And we do not ask for such grand things, although we may ask for the restoration of the church on earth. But if we are honest, we do expect more rest and peace than is proper for a Christian this side of heaven. And so it is good to think of today's mystery, the Ascension, as the mystery of the present. In the Mass, we are bid to lift up our hearts. And this means to lift up our hearts to Christ, sitting at the right hand of the Father. The Church tells us to do so day after day after day, because it is so easy to let our hearts cling to this world. And if Christ has gone to prepare a place for us, it means he is preparing our hearts right now to be worthy of him, to be purified so that they travel easily to him when death comes. And so think often of this in your daily prayers, Christ in glory drawing you to himself, meanwhile acting on your heart through the trials of this life. Though he seems far away, he is very near to us. He is already acting upon the heart that you lift up to him at the Mass. And this means that your sufferings are a preparation. He is preparing your place in heaven for you. He is testing your heart, enlarging it, and all this because he wants you to dwell with him and in him forever. But just as we do not quite know what heaven will be like, so we do not know how our hearts must be to get there. And so when Christ reaches from heaven to pierce your heart, trust him. He allowed his heart to be pierced first to show his love, like a physician who takes the remedy to give the patient courage to take it for himself. Those wounds that he shows to the Father in glory, he must mark in us also. He wounds our feet by having us make vows and then fulfill them no matter what come. He wounds our hands by allowing disappointment in our work and our endeavors. And he wounds our side, our heart in so many ways. By taking those that we love, by allowing others to fall away, by illness, by making us anxious about what will come. But he wounds us to heal us. He humbles us to exalt us. As the Father today exalted his Son in reward for his gracious suffering, so the Son will reward us for suffering for him and for the Church, and indeed for all that is true, honorable, just, and pure. May this peace then be a consolation to you, and may its loving words enliven us as they did the apostles so many centuries ago. He says, let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many mansions. If not, I would have told you, because I go to prepare a place for you. And if I shall go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you to myself, that where I am, you also may be.